My wife/s first love came back. She disregarded our 6 years together and insisted on a divorce that no matter how much I begged, she remained indifferent that in the end, I decided to let go and set her free, but she was the one who ended up regretting it. George Morgan, the company just decided to have a last-minute dinner gathering tonight, so I won't be home for dinner. Anna Miller's gentle voice came through the phone that I put down the food in my hand, feeling a little disappointed. It doesn't matter. Where are you guys having dinner? I/LL pick you up after it/s over.no. Janet and I are going the same way, we can go back together. Before I could respond, she hung up. 6 years ago, on a day of pouring rain, I stepped out of the library without an umbrella, walking straight into the storm that my mother had just passed away. I was drowning in grief, then, suddenly, the rain stopped above me. A girl stood beside me, holding an umbrella over my head. Her voice was urgent. You can't just walk in the rain like that. Getting sick is awful. Let me walk you to your dorm. That I didn't refuse. She walked me to the dorm entrance, and though we still got soaked. She left a mark on my heart that day. That I started looking for her, found out which class she was in, slowly got to know her, pursued her. 4 years later, I proposed. She said yes, but told me she didn't like being tied down by domestic responsibilities. She wanted to focus on her career. That I had smiled and promised her that I would take care of everything at home so she could shine at work. After our wedding, I became a stay-at-home husband, handling all the housework and cooking dinner before picking her up from work. But tonight, she wouldn't be coming home for dinner. I suddenly lost the appetite to cook and decided to eat out instead. That I called Henry to join me at the restaurant. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. What's up with you? Since when do you have time to go out for dinner instead of cooking at home? I punched him lightly in the arm. Anna Miller has a company dinner tonight. A rare chance for you to hang out. I'm honored, he joked. That I ate the meal absent-mindedly, always feeling like something was wrong. Even the carefree Henry noticed it. What's wrong? I rubbed my temples. I don't know. I just have a bad feeling. Alright, let's get out of here then, he said. As we stepped outside, Henry suddenly grabbed my arm and pointed. George Morgan, look over there. Isn't that your wife, Anna Miller? Who's that guy she's with? I followed his gaze. It was Anna, but she had said she was at a company dinner. Who was that man? I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. You're mistaken. Let's go back home. About half an hour later, Anna walked in. Did you have fun at the dinner? I asked. She changed out of her clothes as she answered casually. It was all right. What did you eat? Seafood boiled. I frowned. Then why don't your clothes smell like seafood? I had a sensitive sense of smell. She didn't carry any trace of seafood, but there was a faint scent of men's cologne on her. I took a walk before coming home to air out the smell, she said, stepping closer. Wrapping her arms around my neck, she kissed me lightly. I know how sensitive you are to smells, so I didn't want to bring it home to you. Then why do you smell like men's cologne? Oh, it was Chris/S. She answered smoothly. He lost his balance and I caught him. It must have been his scent. Her answer was flawless and without hesitation. We'd been together for so long. This time, I chose to believe her. If she wasn't telling me something, maybe it was because there was nothing to tell. That I forced a smile. Go take a shower. But a strange unease settled deep in my chest, as if it were warning me of something yet to come. George, I won't be home for dinner tonight. Janet has a date this weekend. And she wants me to go shopping with her after work. This was the third time this week she had plans after work. That I was just about to say something when Anna spoke again in that soft, coaxing tone. You know how much women care about their appearance. I have to help her pick something nice. You don't mind, do you? Anna had always been independent, rarely speaking to me like this. I couldn't bring myself to refuse, so I agreed. You're the best, George. Love you. I didn't know why, but the unease in my chest grew stronger. She felt like a kite, drifting farther and farther away that night. She came home late, exhausted. She didn't even shower before collapsing onto the bed. I kissed her cheek. Why are you so tired? She pushed me away. Janet dragged me around all night. I slid my hand under her shirt, but she shoved me off. George, I'm exhausted. I just want to sleep, then spend the weekend with me. I said that I can't. I promised Janet I'd go with her on her date. Why can't she ask someone else? I'm the only married one in our department. It makes the most sense for me to go. I didn't like it. Then I'll drop you off, okay, that weekend. I drove Anna to the restaurant. Sure enough, Janet was already there. Anna, I really hope I can find someone as good as your husband one day. I wanted to wait for her, but Anna said she and Janet were going shopping afterward and told me to head home. I had work to catch up on at the company anyway. I had no intention of inheriting the Morgan family, but my father was getting older and older and was unable to handle many things. So I had to go back to help him. I haven't /T told Anna about this yet because she is so career-oriented and I was afraid she would think I looked down on her. That night, when she got home, I smelled the same cologne on her as before. She claimed she had run into Chris while shopping and grabbed a coffee with him. A month later, my birthday arrived. Anna had made dinner reservations in advance. She told me to go ahead, saying she'd pick up the cake after work and meet me there. I waited at the restaurant until closing. She never showed up. I drove to her office and sat outside, calling her over and over, staring at the dark, empty building. No answer. Eventually, she called me back. It was loud on her end. George, my manager, dragged me out for a last-minute client dinner. I was in such a rush, I forgot to call you. I'll be home later, okay? Talk soon. Right before she hung up, I heard someone call her name in the background, Anna. I let out a breath and chuckled bitterly. I was a joke. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at the Morgan estate. The next morning, when I returned, Anna was still groggy from sleep. George, where were you last night? Your phone was off. It died. I waited for her to mention my birthday. She didn't. Yawning, she got up and went to the bathroom. I sat on the bed, picked up her phone from the nightstand, and entered the password. A notification popped up. Baby, I woke up and you weren't here. When are you coming over again tonight? Blood rushed to my head. Anna hadn't come home last night. She had spent the night with someone else. On my birthday, she had promised to celebrate with me, but she had been in bed with another man. Anna suddenly walked back in and snatched her phone from my hands, locking the screen. I forced myself to stay calm. Anna, where were you last night? She hesitated. I told you, I was out with clients. I snapped. What kind of client dinner ends in a hotel bed? Anna's eyes widened, her voice rising. What the hell are you talking about? Your phone. That baby just texted you. Are you still going to lie to me? She shot back. Why are you looking through my phone? That's all you have to say. I laughed coldly. After everything, this is how you see me? You think I cheated on you? She demanded. Her voice was sharp, full of indignation. Anyone listening would have thought I was the one who had spent last night in another woman's bed. I clenched my teeth, ready to throw her accusations back at her. But when I met her eyes, the words caught in my throat. This was the woman I had loved for 6 years. I forced my voice to steady. Then tell me, why didn't you come home last night? And what about that message? I already told you, she said, her tone impatient. We were out with a client. He drank too much. So we booked a hotel for him. My manager and I stayed in separate rooms in case he needed anything overnight. As for that message, it was just a joke. Believe it or not. I'll be staying at my mom's for the next few days. She turned and walked away, never once mentioning my birthday. I hired a private investigator. When the photos came back, they were undeniable. Anna, with a man. They went to a movie, had dinner, checked into a hotel. They didn't come out until the next morning. The investigator gave me a pitying look. A man and a woman checking into a hotel late at night and leaving together in the morning? Who would believe they booked separate rooms? A sharp, twisting pain tore through my chest. I had to hear it from her. I went to Mrs. Miller's house to confront Anna. She wasn't home, so I sat in the living room, waiting. Mrs. Miller glared at me, full of disdain. You're a grown man, can't you cut Anna some slack? She's already struggling, working and supporting you, and now you're picking fights with her. Mrs. Miller, not what? Not a freeloader? She scoffed. Then show me how much money you make. I exhaled slowly. Mrs. Miller, I own Morgan Group, she snorted. Oh, so just because your last name is Morgan, you think you own the company? Well, then I must own Miller Group, too. I didn't bother arguing. She had never liked me, always thinking I was beneath her daughter. A while later, Anna came home, her face glowing with happiness. She wasn't upset, not even a little. She hadn't expected me to be here. What are you doing here? She asked. That I need to talk to you. Let's grab dinner. She hesitated, then nodded. All right. At the restaurant, I requested a private room. Once we were seated, I pulled out the envelope and tossed the photos onto the table. Anna froze for a second. You had me followed? Shouldn't you be explaining these first? I said coldly. All those nights you said you were working late, helping a colleague, it was all with him, wasn't it? And on my birthday, you were with him too, weren't you? Luca Smith. Your first love. My voice rose in anger. Anna flinched, her expression turned defensive. I did see him a few times. But it's not what you think, I scoffed. Then how do you explain the hickey on your neck? Her hand flew to her throat as she stammered. That's not, it's a mosquito bite. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. What a ridiculous excuse. I was exhausted. If she wasn't going to admit it, then so be it. Anna, I said, my voice hollow. Let's get a divorce. I stood to leave, but she grabbed my arm. George, don't say that, she pleaded. I swear, it's not what you think that I pried her hand off me, she panicked. George, please don't go. I'm pregnant with your child that I froze. A baby? She placed my hand on her stomach. Yes. Our baby, George. You're going to be a father, damn it. I had finally made up my mind to leave. But with just one sentence, she broke me again. My voice was hoarse. Anna, if you cut ties with Lucas Smith, we won't get a divorce. She hesitated, then nodded. The warmth returned to her expression as she said, George, you've always been the most important person to me. Life returned to normal. The only difference was that Anna was now carrying our child. That I picked her up from work. Took her to doctor's appointments. Cooked meals for her. Making sure she had everything she needed. For the first time in a long time, I felt like things might be okay, until Lucas Smith showed up. That evening, we were having dinner at Mrs. Miller's house when Luca walked in uninvited, and then, right in front of me, he dropped to his knees before Anna. Tears streamed down his face as he clutched her hands. Anna, don't ignore me, he begged. I don't care about anything else, I just want to be with you. You promised me, remember? You said we'd have a lifetime together. Anna was at a loss for words when Luca spoke again. Damar. And Mrs. Miller. I love Anna with all my heart. We've been together since high school. I know her better than anyone. I will cherish her, take care of her. Everything I have, every cent I earn, will belong to her. I had thought my place in Anna's life was unshakable, but then I saw the hesitation in her parents' eyes, and Luca wasn't finished. Anna, have you forgotten? He looked straight at her, voice thick with emotion. That time in high school, when that thug tried to hurt you, I took the hit for you. I was the one who shielded you. I bled for you, Anna. If that isn't love, what is? Bringing up the past. Stirring old emotions. He knew exactly what he was doing. Mrs. Miller wavered. Anna is already married. This is impossible. I don't care, Luca said firmly. As long as she divorces him, then, he took Anna's hands in his. Anna, I've only ever loved you. You don't have to work anymore, I'll take care of you. Anna glanced at him, then at me. She looked torn, and when Mrs. Miller heard I'll take care of you, she hesitated too. After all, she had never liked me, convinced I was nothing more than a burden on her daughter. I stood there, feeling like an outsider. Even though Luca was the one destroying my family, but what shattered me most was Anna's hesitation. My voice was hoarse as I reminded her, Anna, we have a child together. Panic flashed across her face as she jerked her hands free from Luca's grip. George, don't misunderstand. There's nothing between us. Luca's voice cut through the air like a knife. Nothing? Then what about that night we spent together? My blood ran cold. You told me you never forgot me, Luca continued. That you married him because he was easy, obedient, devoted, easy to control. But the one you love has always been me. Or have you forgotten? Stop lying. Anna shrieked. George, it's not true. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. Anna, is that what I am to you? A fool who listens, obeys, and waits at your feet? Was that the reason you married me? No. Anna shook her head violently. I exhaled slowly, my entire body shaking with anger and something deeper, grief. You're carrying my child, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. And yet, you're tangled up with him. Anna flinched. You make me feel like you're dirty. I finished. She was the woman I had loved for 6 years. I had thought she was pure, kind, my home. Turns out, the only joke here was me. I inhaled sharply, forcing the next words out. Have the baby. I'll raise it. My voice was hollow. But you and I were done. Let's get a divorce. Luca's expression twisted in pain. Anna, have you really forgotten how much we loved each other? I was the one who left, and that was my mistake, but it was for us, for our future. Now that I finally have the means to take care of you, you're carrying another man's child. Mrs. Miller, ever the opportunist, chimed in. George doesn't care about you, Anna. He only cares about the baby. But Luca? Luca loves you. He's always loved you. Go with him. Anna looked lost, caught between past and present. Then Luca did something insane. He turned and slammed his head against the edge of the coffee table. The crack of impact echoed through the room. Blood gushed down his face as he crumpled to the floor, unconscious. Luca, Anna shoved me aside and rushed to him. Panic written all over her face. I had never known she had such strength. Luca was rushed to the hospital. Anna sat outside the emergency room, sobbing uncontrollably. She was pregnant. Stress like this wasn't good for her or the baby. I knelt beside her, sighing. Anna, don't cry. The doctors are taking care of him. You need to calm down, for the baby's sake. She lifted her face to mine, eyes filled with something I had never seen before, hatred. George, she choked out. You don't care about me at all. You only care about the baby. You never really loved me. Her words stunned me. In just a matter of hours, her entire demeanor had changed. I let out a hollow laugh. Is that so? Memories crashed over me like waves. Back in college, I had bought her meals every single day, just because she mentioned a dish she liked. I had traveled across the city just to get her favorite cake. When she was sick, I stayed by her bedside, awake all night. You think grand gestures are love? My voice was raw. Then what about the quiet kind? The kind that stays day after day, making sure you're warm, full, safe? Is that not love? Anna scoffed, her lips curling in disdain. Luca was willing to die for me, she whispered. What about you? My throat tightened. Are you telling me to die for you? I never said that. The rain from 6 years ago had never really stopped in my heart. But the woman standing before me now wasn't the same girl who had once held an umbrella over my head. She had changed. She was no longer the light that guided me out of the darkness. She was the one pushing me off the edge of the cliff. No matter how much we had shared, no matter how deeply I had loved her, in the end, I could never compete with the passion of a first love willing to die for her. I swallowed hard, my voice breaking. Anna, I only have one request. Have the baby. I'll raise them. I won't interfere in your life. No. She shook her head firmly. You can't even support yourself. How could I let my child grow up in that kind of environment? If I give birth, the father will be Luca. Anna, I'm begging you. Please. She didn't answer. She simply walked past me. Cold and distant. I returned home in a daze. The place where I had lived for 2 years suddenly felt foreign. The wedding photos on the walls were nothing more than a cruel joke. Now I ripped them down, smashing the frames against the floor. Finally, the tears came. There was nothing left to pack. Anna wasn't coming back, and there was no reason for me to stay. I returned to my father's house. When he saw me at the door, he looked surprised but quickly masked it, gesturing for me to sit down. It had been a long time since we last saw each other. He looked thinner, the gray at his temples spreading. What happened? He asked. A father knows his son. He could see it immediately. I am getting a divorce, I said flatly. I had expected some kind of mockery. After all, he had never approved of Anna as my wife, but he only hesitated for a moment before saying, play a game of chess with me. It was then that I realized he had gotten old. We played in silence, moving pieces across the board. By the time the game ended, I had made peace with it. Some things, no matter how much you try to hold on to them, are meant to be let go. There was still a long road ahead. I called Anna and told her we should proceed with the divorce. She brushed me off. I'm busy right now. Let's talk later. A bad feeling settled in my gut. I didn't call her again. 2 days later, she called me in a rush, saying we needed to meet at the courthouse immediately. I wasn't expecting Luca to come with her. She looked pale, still weak. Luca had an arm around her, his expression triumphant. What are you standing there for? Let's get this over with before you change your mind. I ignored him and walked inside. The process was fast. 6 years. Over, just like that. As we stepped outside, Anna suddenly reached for my arm. I frowned. What is it? Luca immediately grabbed her hand, alarmed. Anna, don't tell me you're having second thoughts. I pulled my arm away. Miss Miller, I hope you have a happy life. And with that, I left them behind. I buried myself in work most nights. I didn't even go home. I just stayed at the office. My assistant mentioned that the employees were at their breaking point from the constant overtime. I decided to book a 3-day retreat at a hot spring resort for the whole company. We all needed a break. The resort was nestled in the mountains, quiet and peaceful, while the others enjoyed the hot springs. I found a secluded spot to rest. That's when I heard a familiar voice. George? It really is you. I thought I was seeing things. I turned around instinctively. Anna stood there, looking thinner and more tired than before. I let out a dry laugh. She had Luca now. She wasn't mine to worry about anymore. I politely replied, what /s the matter? She took a step closer, hesitating. George, why are you being so cold to me? I have no ties to you anymore, Anna. This is how people talk to strangers. That wasn't the answer she wanted. She reached out to grab me. I stepped back. I have things to do. I'll be going now. Anna stomped her foot in frustration. But I didn't stay to watch. I wasn't lying. I really did have business to attend to. Morgan Group had been considering acquiring this resort for some time, and this retreat was also an opportunity for me to assess it firsthand. The acquisition was a success. That evening, I gave a speech on behalf of Morgan Group at the banquet. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Anna standing at the entrance to the hall. She disappeared just as quickly. I paid her no mind. After the banquet, I headed back to my room alone. I had just reached the door when someone grabbed me from behind. Anna. Let go. I want. She said stubbornly. George, do you really not love me anymore? I pried her hands off and turned around. Anna, we're divorced. Do you think this is appropriate? Don't push me away. She reached for me again. I took a step back. Anna, there are security cameras here. Are you really going to cling to me behind Luca's back? Or do you just enjoy playing both sides?" Her face paled. "No, George, I'm not that kind of person. You're the only one who matters to me. You always have been, you said the same thing before. And look how that turned out." My voice was calm. Almost indifferent. "Anna, I don't want to hear any more lies." That I took out my key card, swiped, opened the door, and shut it behind me, locking her outside. That I didn't know why she had come here, and I didn't care. That night, I packed my things and left. After that, Anna began bombarding me with calls, every day. My phone rang non-stop. That I blocked her number. She switched to texting. That I deleted her from my social media. Finally, silence. Henry was ecstatic when he heard about my divorce. He showed up immediately, eager for gossip. "Come on, tell me the real reason." He prodded. "Personality differences," I replied curtly. He didn't buy it, but I wasn't in the mood to explain. That chapter of my life was closed. "Well, at least you're free now," Henry declared. "Let's go have a drink." "No, you really don't /T treat me as a friend. You used to accompany your wife, but now you are single and you don't /T want to accompany me." Annoyed, I relented. "Fine, but just dinner. No drinks." After the meal, I drove Henry home. That's when I rear-ended another car, luckily. It wasn't a bad collision. A woman stepped out of the car. "I am so sorry. I wasn't paying attention," I said immediately. "It's okay. Accidents happen," she replied. Her voice was soft and gentle. We called the police, exchanged licenses, and exchanged numbers for insurance purposes. Henry nudged me with a grin. "She's pretty nice. You should go for it." I rolled my eyes. "You should change careers and become a gossip columnist." But Henry turned serious. "George, you've already been through a failed relationship. That doesn't mean you should close yourself off. You still have a long road ahead. You deserve someone who understands and truly loves you." I didn't answer. I had been using work to numb myself. People had tried setting me up on dates, but I had turned them all down. Let /s talk about it later." I muttered. The woman's name was Emily. She was a music teacher, warm, easygoing, and always smiling. Talking to her was effortless. Even when her jokes were corny, I found myself chuckling. But that was all. Once the car repairs were settled, we lost contact. Then came an unexpected twist. My neighbor's aunt tried setting me up with someone. After some thought, I agreed. When I arrived at the cafe for the blind date, I was stunned. It was Emily. She looked just as surprised. We ended up talking for hours. We shared similar interests, and conversation flowed naturally. By the end of the night, we made a mutual decision to take things slow and see where it led. Emily was a pleasant surprise, but I never expected to cross paths with Luca again. It happened at a business gala. Luca was there. Representing Smith Group. Word had already spread that Smith Group was crumbling, mismanagement, poor investments, drowning in debt. He was probably here, trying to secure funding. I never expected Luca to be the heir of Smith Group, yet here he was, shamelessly hovering around a circle of business executives, pandering for attention. Then, as if sensing my gaze, he turned his head. Our eyes met. I looked away immediately. Some people weren't even worth acknowledging. As the gala wound down, I left a little early. Luca was waiting for me in the hallway. He stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "Well. So you're the CEO of Morgan Group. Hiding in plain sight, huh?" "I have nothing to say to you." I moved to walk past him, but he didn't budge. "What's wrong? Scared?" His lips curled into a sneer. "No matter how powerful you are, your wife still ended up in my bed. What exactly are you so proud of?" I clenched my fists. "Luca, what do you want? 20 million. He said smugly. "Or I'll post everything online." I sneered. "Go ahead. Try it." Luca wasn't stupid enough to actually post anything online. What he and Anna did while she was still married to me was adultery. If anything, he was the one with more to lose. I didn't know what Luca had done, but ever since that encounter, Anna started showing up outside Morgan Group day and night. Every time she saw me, she'd rush forward, only to be stopped by security. She'd call my name over and over, causing a scene. It was bad for the company's image, so I finally agreed to meet her. "Anna, how long do you plan on clinging to me?" She grabbed my sleeve desperately. "George, I love you. Let's get back together." I scoffed. "You were the one who couldn't wait to finalize the divorce before you even fully recovered. And now you're saying this? Don't you find it ridiculous? You tricked me first." She snapped. "That's why I was so angry." I frowned. "Tricked you? About what? You never told me you were the heir to the Morgan family. You pretended to be a nobody, jobless, living off of me. You fooled me and my parents completely." I let out a low, humorless chuckle. "So that's your excuse for rushing into a divorce? That's what you're so bitter about?" She clung to my arm. George, let's remarry. Her fickleness almost made me laugh. Honestly, I was relieved that I had gotten out when I did. Does Luca know you're saying all this? Her face twisted with resentment. He never loved me. After we got married, he was never home. And he was involved with multiple other women. I stared at her. So what? You think that means I have to take you back? Anna, you truly disgust me. George, I swear, I love you. She pleaded. Still unwilling to give up, the sound of heels clicking against the pavement approached. Emily had arrived. I straightened up. Enough with the dramatics. My girlfriend is here, and I don't want her to misunderstand. Anna shook her head furiously. No. You're lying. You can't have a girlfriend. I reached for Emily's hand. Let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Emily. Then, turning to Emily, I explained, this is my ex-wife, Anna. She's been making a scene outside the company. So I came to talk to her. Emily extended a polite hand toward Anna. Nice to meet you. Anna stared at her blankly, whispering, no, this can't be real, you're lying. I saw no point in dragging this conversation out. Taking Emily's hand, I led her away. Anna tried to stop us, but security had to step in and escort her out. As we walked, Emily glanced at me. Aren't you going to tell me what she wanted? I looked at her, amused. She smiled. I trust you. I know you wouldn't lie to me. That was enough for me. That I changed my phone number after that. Cutting off any way for Anna to contact me again. 6 months later, I heard the rumors. Smith Group had collapsed under enormous debt. Luca had abandoned ship long before, leaving his wife to bear the financial burden alone. Anna's mental state had already been unstable. When she learned the full extent of what Luca had done, she completely lost her mind. Her parents, realizing that their daughter was now saddled with a lifetime of debt she could never repay, took their own lives by jumping off a building. Anna had trusted the wrong person and she had paid the ultimate price. When I heard the news, I felt nothing. What are you thinking about? Emily's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I turned to her with a soft smile, reaching into my pocket, taking out a small velvet box. I flipped it open, revealing a diamond ring. Then, lowering myself onto one knee, I asked, Emily, will you marry me? Tears welled up in her eyes, her voice trembling with joy. I will.